So today we'll be talking about getting started, talents, overcoming imposter syndrome, and hard work. So people love to say things like, whatever is for me will always be for me and will always find its way to me. And I've never understood that because I think it's nonsense. They sit and they manifest and they do nothing. And they think that the things that they want in life will come to them miraculously. You know, the universe is working in their favor, all things are conspiring in their favor, but they're not doing anything themselves to work towards that. So I've never understood that, you know, it's wishful thinking. And life happens to those that have wishful thinking and is molded by those that take action. So whenever people are embarking on a journey of chasing a dream, they're often paralyzed by, you know, abantu bazothini, fear of being publicly scrutinized or criticized. You know, they're just so crippled by public opinion. You know, people think they're too cool to chase their dream. They don't want to start at the ground up. You know, they look at people who are already established in their careers and often forget that, like, hey, those people also started at the bottom, you know. Those people at the bottom picked up the lower hanging fruits. They started with a small garden, you know, but they nurtured and watered that small garden and showed God that, like, they can be entrusted with more and they were given more as a result. So with regards to imposter syndrome and being worried about being boxed and confirmed, you need to understand that, yes, okay, people are used to you being a certain way, but if you do something long enough and you stay the path long enough and you do something consistently enough, then that'll become the new you. That'll become how you're seen. It's your vision at the beginning of the day, so people won't understand it and you'll often walk it alone. But once you've walked it long enough and you start to pick up your stride, your community finds you and people start to back you and tag along, and they'll start to ask you for your blueprints and they'll go around talking about how they always knew you could do it. So in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, they say, for God has instilled in us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So whenever you find yourself having self-doubt, questioning yourself, know that that's not from God. That's probably the devil, you know, feeding off of your insecurities, you know, because he's been around for quite some time as well. He knows us. He knows how to play on the thoughts that are in our head. So you really just have to get over yourself and get into it. I especially don't like this notion and narrative of whatever is for me will find its way to me no matter what, because sometimes, and often, actually not even sometimes, often if we're not obedient and we do not value our talents, then we lose them. A pro athlete's career is up until 35 if you're disciplined. So imagine if Cristiano Ronaldo just sat on his ass and said, whatever is for me will find its way to me. He's one of the greatest footballers in the world, you know. I won't get into the Messi and Ronaldo debate, but he's one of the greatest in the world, if not the greatest, and he had to break his back and get up off his ass and work hard every day and outwork everyone, even though he had the talent already. You all know the saying that says, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. So why then would you be of the belief that whatever is for me will make its way to me and nothing can take that away? We see in Genesis with Jacob and Esau that, you know, Jacob got his older brother Esau to give up his birthright, and he impulsively did it without thinking about it. He was supposed to be the heir, he's the elder sibling, and in an impulsive, without thinking about it moment, he gave up his birthright, and at the end of it, Jacob was greater than Esau. Also, we saw with Samson. Samson took lightly of his talents from God which was he was the strongest, one of the strongest men in the Bible, and nobody knew what his secret was, and he was given rules of people to stay away from and things not to do. And Samson blatantly disregarded and did not respect that, and as a result he lost his God-given talent. So I'd like to refer to Matthew 25, to the parable of talents, where a master went away for quite some time, and before he went away he entrusted 3 of his servants with talents. But for the sake of this video, we'll refer to the currency as gold. So the one servant was entrusted with 5 bags of gold by the master, cool. The other servant was entrusted by 2 bags of gold by the master, cool. And then the last servant was entrusted with 1 bag of gold. So the servant that was entrusted with 5 bags of gold, he went and he doubled the investment and came back with 10 bags of gold. The one who was entrusted with 2 bags of gold went and doubled the investments as well and came back with 4 bags of gold. And the last servant who was entrusted with 1 talent, he went and dug it up and came back with 1 bag of gold. So after some time, the master comes back. The first servant comes to the master and says, Master, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. I went and I doubled your investments. So here are 10 bags of gold. So the master was delighted. And he just let him know that, like, come and share in your master's happiness. I will entrust you with many things. The servant who was entrusted with 2 bags of gold came back with the 4 and said, Master, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. I went and I doubled your bread, you know. So here's 4 bags of gold. And again, the master was delighted and was like, hey, yo, I can trust you with a lot. Come and share in your master's happiness because you've doubled my bread. Now the last one came and said, Master, I was scared. So he went and he dug up the master's gold, and the master was very displeased and spoke on how lazy he was and cast him out from the community and working with them. So that tells us a lot also about God and his character. He gives us talents, you know. He gives us the necessary means and tools to catapult ourselves further in life, to be on an upward trajectory. But if we just sit on it and we are scared, or we look too cool and we don't want to get our hands dirty and do the groundwork, we'll lose those talents. So whatever's for you will not find you if you do nothing. In the Bible it says in 2 James 17, in the same way, faith, if by itself is not accompanied by action, is dead. So it's good and well to have faith, but you have to take action. Often in life, there are periods and stages of stagnancy. There's unemployment. There's still things that you can do. You shouldn't sit idly and do nothing in quiet times of waiting. Those should be times where you are being shaped and molded, and you don't just get shaped and molded by sitting and waiting. You have to take action. Like I was saying earlier, you pick the lower hanging fruits. You water the little that you're entrusted with to show that you can be entrusted with more. People who embark on their journeys and chase their dreams, they can only imagine things based on whatever trajectory is imaginable to them, and that all comes from exposure. So there's certain things that you'll see, but God sees all the way. So look at Eze, for example. Look at Kabza De Small. A lot of Kabza's music is gospel, piano, giving glory to God. I don't imagine when he started all of this, he saw himself being familiar with, the likes of Drake. He's one of the godfathers of piano. I don't think he saw that when he started. Look at Eze, as I was saying, Eze, who went from Crystal Palace to Arsenal. He was kicked out of the Arsenal Academy. I'm an Arsenal fan, obviously I have to reference Arsenal, you know what it is. He was kicked out of the Arsenal Academy at 13, which can be dreadful to an academy player, you can be discouraged and think that like your career is over, but he never gave up. He stayed the course. He worked on his talents. He went to training every day. He worked hard every day, all the time. He's recently won the FA Cup for Crystal Palace, and even as a professional footballer who's already made it, he was in talks with Spurs, who's the young man club of Arsenal. He was in talks with Spurs. He didn't want that, so he picked up the phone and he took action, and he called Mikel Arteta and he asked him, is there any way that I can come to Arsenal? And because he took action and he molded life, he's now Arsenal's number 10. As I'm about to conclude, I'd like to reference Proverbs 18 verse 16, and it says that a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before kings or great men. And that's just a blueprint of how the game and life's trajectory works. You start on whatever level that you're at, and you just like work at something, and you work at it consistently, and you work at it with everything that you have. And because we see life and its trajectory based on whatever's exposed to us, so whatever we might see happening might or might not happen, but it's often further than our wildest dreams and imagination. I gave reference to Eze and Kabza, but even look at the likes of Calvin Momo. I don't think Calvin Momo imagined when he started making music that Drake was gonna find his music and tell him that, like, what did he tell him? Your music feels like everything is gonna be okay. Don't imagine that the piano guys, when the movement started, imagined that you'd have all these soccer teams in Europe, from Strasbourg in France to the British teams, to Declan Rice listening to Tyler ICU's song. I don't imagine that they imagined that the world would receive their music the way it did, but the community is bigger, and they keep putting out music, and the community keeps finding them and keeps growing. So don't even be discouraged by feeling like you're not ready. In Exodus, Moses spoke to God and spoke about but Lord, I'm not eloquent, I'm slow of speech. How can I lead a whole nation of people out of Egypt? And like I was saying, your community finds you, your community grows, you just put out the work. God spoke to him and said, hey, your brother Aaron is very well spoken, so he'll be part of your team, he'll be your speaker, he'll announce you before I put you in front of people to speak to you. So again, in the Bible, in Proverbs 3 verse 5, they say, trust in the Lord with all your hearts and lean not on your own understanding. So when we look at things, we feel embarrassed, we feel shame, we feel like we're being cringe in embarking on these new journeys, and it's just because we're in our heads too much and we see things based on whatever is available to us to see. But opportunity and doors being opened that we didn't see being opened is all from God, and it's as a result of us just staying the path and doing the work. You don't know what's gonna make its way to you. You don't know what doors are gonna open up, but you do the work still. Thanks for joining us, guys.